I now recognize Mr. Bentley for his opening statement.
Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Subramaniam, and members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Guy Bentley, and I'm the Director of Consumer Freedom at the Reason Foundation, a non-profit public policy think tank. The Consumer Freedom Project analyzes and promotes policy solutions that improve public health while avoiding unintended consequences and protecting consumer choice. I would like to focus on 3 points. First, the current state of the tobacco market. Second, how we got here. And third, what can be done to reduce the illicit e-cigarette market while ensuring adult smokers have legal access to a range of safer alternatives. The focus of this hearing is rightly on rooting out illicit products, including illegal e-cigarettes. But there is some good news amid the disorder. Youth vaping has declined more than 70% since 2019 and is at its lowest level in 10 years. Youth smoking fell by 68% and is at its lowest level on record. These declines followed the decision to raise the age of purchase for tobacco products to 21, for which there was bipartisan support. Cigarettes remain the most widely used tobacco product, with 28 million adult smokers and more than 400,000 deaths per year attributable to smoking. There are also 18 million adult vapers who are using e-cigarettes to quit smoking. But thanks to the FDA's regulatory bottlenecks, since 2019, illicit products have flooded the market, with almost 90% of e-cigarettes being sold illegally, mainly consisting of disposable products from China. Despite the huge demand for safer nicotine alternatives among adult smokers, the FDA has authorized just 8 vaping devices for sale and 34 vaping products in total, and only in tobacco and menthol flavors, which have little appeal to most e-cigarette users. E-cigarette authorizations account for just 0.2% of all tobacco product authorizations, compared to 22% for combustible cigarettes. So how did we arrive at a situation where it is easier to release a new cigarette onto the market than the safer products invented to displace cigarettes, and the illicit products thrive? The answer is the FDA's approach to the pre-market tobacco product application pathway, which is how e-cigarettes are evaluated and authorized for sale or not. The PMTA pathway, established as part of the Tobacco Control Act, was supposed to facilitate innovation for safer alternatives to cigarettes. In reality, it presents an almost insurmountable barrier. In 2022, an independent review of the FDA's performance as a tobacco regulator was published by the Reagan-Udall Foundation, which criticized the FDA's lack of transparency and timeliness in authorizing e-cigarettes into the legal market. It is unfortunate that in response to a report that emphasized the need for timeliness and transparency, the FDA issued a 5-year plan of generalities with no substantive changes to the PMTA pathway. With a large illicit market now in place, the FDA has taken steps to ameliorate the problem with the creation of a multi-agency task force last year, increases in seizures, injunctions, and civil money penalties. But the only way to sustainably resolve the problem of the illicit e-cigarette market is to streamline the PMTA process to have regulated companies sell their e-cigarettes in the United States and reduce death and disease from smoking. Reforming the PMTA process would lessen current burdens on FDA staff reviewing e-cigarette applications, hasten the creation of a regulated marketplace, and restore public trust. The FDA insists its current approach to authorizing or denying e-cigarette products is guided by science and is appropriate for the protection of public health. But despite the best of intentions, a regulatory regime that results in a de facto ban of almost all e-cigarettes, incentivizing the illicit market, is not appropriate for the protection of public health. When it's easier to bring a cigarette onto the market than a vape or a nicotine pouch, both of which the FDA acknowledges are dramatically safer, that is not appropriate for the protection of public health. And an agency that fails to correct the misperceptions around e-cigarettes, with the majority of Americans now believing that e-cigarettes are just as or more dangerous than combustible cigarettes, that is not appropriate for the protection of public health. It is within FDA's current powers to change this dynamic and pursue a different path. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, I'm grateful for the opportunity to testify before your committee today. Mr. Chairman, I'm especially grateful for your decades-long leadership on behalf of Kentucky hemp farmers. You and I started on this journey in 2012 and worked across the aisle to secure hemp's legalization in the Bluegrass State. Indeed, hemp's policy success has always been a bipartisan hallmark. And it's no wonder. Hemp products are made in the USA, harvested from crops grown by American farmers, manufactured by innovative U.S. entrepreneurs, and sold by small businesses dotting the nation. Unfortunately, the U.S. hemp industry continues to encounter avoidable bureaucratic headwinds in the marketplace. And this turmoil is due in large part to statements, actions, and indecisions of the FDA. When Congress passed the 2018 Farm Bill, it explicitly legalized the sale of hemp and its derivatives such as CBD. But just a few hours after the Farm Bill was signed into law, the FDA reasserted its opinion that it was illegal to market CBD as a dietary supplement. We've watched in bewilderment as FDA has jerked back and forth with contradictory opinions. First, the agency affirmed its ability to regulate CBD under current law. But then FDA stalled, even ignoring Congressional Appropriations Report directives to take expedited action. Finally, in 2023, the agency stated that it cannot regulate CBD under existing regulatory pathways, essentially punting responsibility to Congress. This regulatory uncertainty resulted in a collapse of the CBD market, as demonstrated on this chart behind me, denying economic opportunity that was promised to farmers. The FDA's inaction doesn't just threaten CBD. A new industry focused on the adult market has emerged to meet consumer demand for hemp-derived cannabinoids like Delta-8 and Delta-9 THC. These products provide plant-based options for adults seeking functional health and wellness benefits. Furthermore, a promising new hemp beverage industry has soared into popularity, meeting adult consumer demand for non-alcoholic options through domestic inputs from our farmers. The only upward line on this chart represents the price of hemp flower, which recovered when it started being widely used for adult products, offering a lifeline to U.S. farmers. Unfortunately, lack of uniform quality control standards for hemp products at the federal level has forced responsible farmers and small business owners to compete against unscrupulous actors who generate headlines by distributing poorly manufactured products that are sometimes inappropriately marketed to children. A political backlash has ensued. Language was added into the 2024 House Farm Bill that purported to crack down on the bad actors. Unfortunately, the language went much farther. It would have federally banned 90 to 95% of the hemp product marketplace, including most non-intoxicating CBD products and animal feed, which offers great promise to farmers, while undermining a decade of progress for hemp fiber production. I want to be very clear. The hemp industry is united behind an appropriate response to these challenges. Robust regulation of hemp products, not misguided prohibition. We support an approach that includes the following four pillars: restrict youth access, increase quality control standards, standardized labeling, and standardized packaging. FDA could act today on applying this four-pillar approach to hemp products. We are hopeful that new leadership at the FDA will reverse the past course of inaction and take deliberate steps to robustly regulate hemp. This approach is precisely in line with the new administration's focus on providing adult consumers the freedom to make their own health care choices with holistic solutions that are grown on American farms. If laws must be changed, we urge Congress to act now. There are two viable pathways. First, we hope we will consider Senator Ron Wyden's effort in the last Congress, S. 5243, that would ensure that the FDA regulates applying the four-pillar approach. A parallel effort could be to invest more authority in the states to properly regulate their own markets. In the absence of federal regulation, many states, like our Kentucky home, Mr. Chairman, have filled the policy void by developing new laws and regulations that balance market access with consumer safety. We urge you to implement a federal framework that authorizes the sale of hemp products and develops uniform standards for labeling, packaging, and testing, while allowing states flexibility on more complex issues. In the meantime, we've taken the additional step of establishing the U.S. Hemp Authority, the industry's self-regulating organization, which sets rigorous standards for safety, quality, and transparency across the supply chain. The hemp industry may be unique in that we are coming to Congress to ask, please regulate us. Thank you for your consideration.